Alrighty, guys. Good morning. Welcome to the live stream today. Welcome, Keisha, Bill, Carlos. Thank you so much, of course. Carlos says, I always forget that it's stocked up live and not just stocked up. I know, Carlos. I wonder if that makes a big difference. But yeah, I know that that's definitely a big deal there. But yeah, sometimes I even forget that. But yeah, Keisha says, good morning, guys. I knew the Green Day was too good to be true. But I think it just had to retest. The Bulls will be back in charge in no time. Yeah, I hope so, Keisha. I really do hope so. I hope we can see like SPY start to recover back up, along with a few of these other growth stocks today. It's definitely been insane. Good morning, Jamie. Keisha goes, Tom, where are you? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I was about a minute late today. Peter goes, good morning, y'all. Yeah, good morning, Peter. Hopefully you're having a good morning. Yeah, but you know, the stock market's not really doing too hot today. Not gonna lie, guys. The market did end up coming down a little bit. I do have some stocks green on my watch list. I noticed I actually have Kraft having a pretty nice pop, which is nice. They're actually usually not the biggest mover, so to see them getting some movement is definitely nice this morning. I noticed LI Auto, or yeah, I guess you could just say LI. They are flying up this morning in a pretty big way. They're outperforming Neo and a few of those other China stocks. So kind of interesting to see LI popping up like this. Baba's definitely not having that type of move. Neither is JD or Baidu or any of those stocks. They actually gapped down. So LI is outperforming the China plays just a little bit. I noticed Kraft kept popping up here today, guys. Now they're up 2.5%. I'm not sure Kraft has any good news here. Let's see. KHC. Let's see, any big news? BMO Capital upgrades Kraft Heinz to outperform, changes their price target to $46. Hey, I'll take it. Go BMO. Keep upgrading Kraft, please. I'll definitely take it if that's what you want to do here today. But it looks like Kraft is going to be changing their macaroni and cheese. Looks like it's being renamed. Let's see. Kraft Macaroni and Cheese is changing its name and iconic blue box, introducing Kraft Mac and Cheese. I guess it went from Kraft Macaroni and Cheese to Kraft Mac and Cheese. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here's the new boxes. Here we go. Oh, guys, I don't know. I'm used to that old box. I don't know if I like this box. I don't know. Let me know if you guys like this box better than the old macaroni box. If you don't know what the old box looks like, that's all right. But man, I know wow, something's going on here. There we go. Kept making me scroll down for a second, but interesting news though for good old Kraft Heinz today, and they got that upgrade from BMO. So hey, I'll take it. No matter which way, I will take it in that sense. And don't forget, look, we have Powell live today, guys, so don't forget about this. This is going to be pretty big here this morning. Let me know if Powell is too loud for you guys, okay? I know that you guys might be able to hear him whenever he starts speaking and stuff. Let me know how the volume is, because obviously I won't be able to hear it too well. But yeah, good morning, Vicky, of course. E, thanks for joining up. Peter says Rev gapped hard and is about to break $8. Is that right? Good old Revlon here. REV. Let's go check it out. Ooh, it did gap, Peter. That is cool to see, actually. Glad to see that they kept rising. I kind of forgot about Revlon yesterday, Peter. I'll be honest. I kind of forgot about them, but they had a good day. They ended up doing pretty good either way. So, yeah, Keisha says, oh, Tom, Rev, that stock was $1.06 a few days ago. Yeah, it was. Remember that? Man, we talked about that even in Discord a little bit, and yeah, I can't believe that Rev ended up popping that much. I drew a little wedge there, and man, it broke my wedge and just started flying. I'm not saying it's the wedge's fault, but wow, I mean, it had that news with the Chapter 11 bankruptcy and everything, and I'll never forget, somebody talked about Revlon in this chat, in the live chat here. Somebody talked about Revlon like 2 days before it gapped up. It might have been Peter. I could have sworn it was somebody else, though. But I know Peter talked about it a ton after. But, man, somebody talked about it before it actually had the bankruptcy news come out, which was pretty
Housing
crazy.
and Urban Affairs Committee will come to order today.
Oh, it sounds like Powell's here, guys. What's going on?
Format. Our witness, of course, is in person. Members have the option to appear
Here we
either
go.
way. This country, most corporations do. They make the same choice they've always made, no matter the.
Let me know how this is with the volume, guys. It might be too.
Executives, they're not bad people. They're just doing their jobs. They tell us it's the Wall Street system. These executives have to post profit increases for their shareholders quarter after quarter after quarter. The consequences for everything else be damned, and everyone else be damned. It's why for decades Wall Street's rewarded the companies that squeeze their workers the hardest, companies that cut wages and retirement benefits,
Does that sound good, guys?
And worker safety and consumer protection just to make their stock prices go up. It's why too many companies fail to invest in their workers or their products. It's why companies moved manufacturing overseas and then neglected the supply chains that have been crippled during the pandemic, contributing mightily to inflation. It's why big corporations, Amazon, Starbucks, why they
I just want to hear
unions.
Big Daddy speak.
It's why oil and gas companies would rather charge higher prices than increase supply to meet demand. We aren't witnessing traditional inflation. We're watching Russia and OPEC drive up prices and American energy companies engage in wartime profiteering. At the root of the higher prices and the empty shelves are the same problem that's been shipping jobs overseas and keeping wages low for decades, from Nevada to Massachusetts to Ohio. Corporate power, concentration reaching into every industry and market, into every corner of the economy. Our economy doesn't have to be a zero-sum game where Wall Street wins, everyone else loses. We can create an economy that reflects our values and works for everyone. We passed the American Rescue Plan, including the child tax.
Man, this is a long question.
Biggest tax cut for working families ever. And despite what naysayers claim, of course it wasn't the cause for inflation. For the American families that I talked to, it empowered them to keep up with the cost of raising children. We passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, a long-term investment in economic growth that creates more jobs, strengthens supply chains, improves our bridges and roads and public transit. Last week, President Biden signed the bipartisan ocean shipping reform.
Of course, we won't leave this on the whole time, but
shipping supply chain costs.
I was kind of hoping Powell would start speaking here.
To build an economy that rewards work, making things in America. We should pass our Supply Chain Resiliency Act and begin to bring manufacturing back to our country. We should bring down the cost of prescription drugs and housing and child care and elder care and other costs that have been rising for decades. We need to pass the Protecting the Right to Organize Act.
I mean, hey, the stuff he's talking about sounds good, right?
In our economy, so they actually get their fair share. We need to crack down on corporate concentration and consolidation. Fair competition.
It sounds really good, but you know, whenever you crack down on corporate consolidation and stuff, it doesn't trickle down to people the way you'd think it would.
That workers don't always pay the price for powerful people's
decisions, I know, Vicky.
Whether it's a dictator in Eastern Europe or a Wall Street executive. In a truly fair economy, people don't have to choose between two bad options.
I know it is. I just figured he'd talk a little bit more than, you know, he's pretty much just going in between Wall Street and the people right now. I was kind of expecting something a little bit different here.
And as Chair Powell knows, it's part of the Fed's mandate. We must continue to power workers.
There's Big Daddy.
The labor
he looks
market.
thrilled.
Wages are clearly not responsible
He's thrilled.
for inflation now. We can't forget that almost 6 million people are still looking for work, actual workers behind the numbers whose livelihoods are directly affected by the decisions the Fed makes. And as interest rates rise and financial stability risks increase, it's even more important to keep a close watch on the biggest banks.
He says they really pushing that nonsense about Russia, and now they're blaming corporations. LOL,
banks
typical.
Must have enough capital
it's the
to
policies
the
that the government creates.
They must serve their communities, not just enrich themselves with stock buybacks and exorbitant executive pay. And mergers must benefit the local community, not just shareholders. We've seen too much evidence of big Wall Street banks behaving badly, shunning small businesses, raking in billions in overdraft fees, discriminating all too often against black and brown borrowers. Chair Powell, you must also ensure we have a strong payment system that works for Main Street banks and consumers.
Man, Powell's face earlier, he looked
the only
pissed.
Option is a risky and unregulated alternative financial
This is not like FOMC day.
But empty promises.
I can tell he looks a lot
proxy
different.
Currencies like stablecoin and other digital assets. They promise transparency.
Dude, am I going to get in trouble?
And they promise transparency and democracy are missing one thing. They aren't backed by the full faith and credit of the United States of America. The Federal Reserve, our nation's central bank, must use its authority to protect consumers and the financial system from these risks And you, Mr. Chair, must ensure that the Fed has the highest ethical standards. After former Fed officials profited off their positions in last year's stock trading scandal, it's up to you to restore the American people's and us to restore the American people's trust in this institution that's critical for a healthy economy. I was encouraged when you updated the Fed's policies, but we need rules that have the force of law. That's why we need to pass my Ban Conflicted Trading at the Fed Act. As chair of the Federal Reserve, you have an important role to play to make sure our economy works for everyone, not just those at the top. I urge you to remember the millions of working Americans who are.
It should be an economy for more of like everybody. But
today's ranking member, Mr. Tillis from North Carolina, and then Chair Powell, and the first questioner will be Senator Warren, who has another engagement. Plus, it's her birthday, so she. Every
Peter goes, I can't watch this. I'll be back later.
I have to.
Don't worry, Peter. We won't be doing this all day. I promise.
Your 80th birthday today, Senator Kennedy? Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Chairman Powell.
Whose birthday is it?
Congratulations on your confirmation. I was proud to support it. When you testified before this committee in March, inflation was at a 40-year high, and the Federal Reserve regional banks were stonewalling reasonable requests for information about their activities from banking Republicans. Unfortunately, neither situation has improved.
Vicky says that these clowns blame everything on someone else. They should shut down the economy and we all go to sleep. Republicans are not much better, though, but better.
Getting inflation under control.
Ironical says, I think he have many stocks. Yeah, you're probably right.
Prices and mounting costs.
I bet he does.
Also critical to any discussion we have on inflation is an understanding of what served to turbocharge it. In March of 2021...
While we're watching this, if you guys are seeing any big stocks moving, let me know and I'll go off of this for a second and check some out and come back. I know Keisha said Roku was looking pretty good earlier. And let me know if you guys like watching this or not. You know, if you guys would rather look at stocks, let me know. We could always do that too. I figured this would be a little bit of a good difference today. Just kind of watching this intro though. We'll talk a little bit more about it after Powell talks a little bit here. After he answers some questions, that is.
And it was actually above pre-pandemic levels at 4.5%. And the personal savings rate had returned by 80% to its pre-pandemic state, indicating Americans were capable and willing to spend. Considering these factors and many others, CBO projected that the United States would return to pre-COVID economic levels in GDP output by mid-2021, just a couple of months away. At the same time, the Biden administration was aware of one major area of concern, the disruption of supply chains. In fact, President Biden issued a February...
Carlos says, this is pretty interesting. At my job, we are actually talking about members of Congress and the Senate being able to buy stock. Yeah, Carlos, that's big. I'll tell you, the way that Congress is able to buy stocks is huge. I mean, it's kind of insane that they're legally allowed to do that. You would really think that they wouldn't be allowed to, but... You know, I guess imagine this, if they are allowed to, at least they're making it go up, you know, like they're usually not crashing it down, which is good, but yeah, I guess it's definitely weird, Carlos. Some people agree with it, some people don't. I personally, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I don't agree. I think they should be able to invest, but I don't think they should be able to invest in like specific companies. Maybe they should be like restricted to some funds or something like that. Then I think it would be a little bit more fair.
Adding
J Deep says Zoom's ripping. Let's see, good old ZM. Ooh, having a really good day. Up to 118, possibly even a little bit higher there. Huh. Glad to see that. That's actually not too bad. Zoom's up. I know Kraft is still running up today, which is great. We have Teledoc running. Looks pretty hot, actually. Roblox is up. Wow, guys, are these growth stocks having... The growth stocks have recovered, guys. Are we going to have a green day after all? Wow, there we go. Spy's trying to come back. He's trying.
Per year, a new 40-year high. But the Fed fund rate sits at 1.6%. According to the Fed semi-annual report, the rate should be over 6% under the Taylor rule. This disparity indicates not only the lengths the Fed has yet to go to normalize monetary policy, but also the fact that the Fed has largely boxed itself in to a menu of purely reactive policy measures. Unless the Fed works quickly to move away from their discretion-based monetary policy approach, that has remained consistently well behind the curve, I'm concerned the Fed will lose its credibility to effectively manage the national economic situation. Regarding congressional oversight of the Fed, I remain concerned that the Fed and its regional banks continue a pattern of stonewalling reasonable requests for information. The latest example concerns the fairness, transparency, and consistency of Fed decisions to granting highly valuable Fed master accounts. This is a significant public policy issue. Ranking Member Toomey, myself, Senator Lummis, and others have repeatedly requested information about this from the Fed and the Kansas City Fed, yet we still have few, if any, answers. Just this month, the Kansas City Fed refused to provide any information about its recent decision to revoke the master account for Reserve Trust, a non-bank fintech. This is significant given the controversy that arose in former Governor Raskin's nomination process when it was revealed that the Kansas City Fed reversed its denial of Reserve Trust application for a Fed master account following a call from Ms. Raskin. Now, months after defending the decision to grant Reserve Trust a master account, the Kansas City Fed abruptly revoked the account without explanation. The Kansas City Fed won't give banking Republicans information or even a briefing about this.
I'm going to go back to the stocks here for a second.
And it's important to point out.
Go ahead and see here again. SPY is having a great morning so far. I mean, Powell hasn't even opened his mouth yet. And hey, the market's coming back. We'll take it. We have DraftKings here. Great morning. Snapchat's coming back up. Looks like we have AI rising, DraftKings, Peloton. I mean, guys, it is a pretty good day in the market, actually. Carlos says Rev got halted. Oh, no.
Thanks to FOIA.
Oh, it did. No.
Which they currently are not.
Look at that ass,
and forbid
205.
the Fed from using FOIA exemptions to withhold
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, though. We got halted on Revlon. I mean, surprise. I guess 41% wasn't enough. No, I'm just joking. 41%. That's insane, guys. This is a crazy halt going on. Is it the volatility halt, or is it the circuit breaker thing?
Congress should
I would guess it's just volatility, but yeah, that's insane to see it up to 860 now. I mean, wow, that thing is seriously flying up, guys. I mean, I honestly thought this might go up for like a day or two with some hype, but wow, it is really coming up. Look at that IV, 313% on Revlon. Like, that is just nuts. Talk about some good day trade opportunities. I mean, I wouldn't do it now. Oh, it unhalted. There we go. We just unhalted.
Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to Chairman Powell's testimony.
Thank you, Senator Tillis. We'll hear from the Chair of the Federal Reserve on monetary policy.
Oh, she's coming back.
Economy. Congratulations again on your second term.
Falling back down for us.
To your second term. Thanks for your service and your testimony. Please proceed.
All right.
Are we getting into the questions?
Brown, Senator Tillis, and other members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to present the Fed's semi-annual monetary policy report. I'll begin with one overarching message. At the Fed, we understand the hardship that high inflation is causing. We are strongly committed to bringing inflation back down.
Get out of the way!
Expeditiously do so. We have both the tools we need and the resolve it will take to restore price stability on behalf of American families and businesses. It is essential that we bring inflation down if we are to have a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all.
Yeah, Keisha, the bankruptcy helped Revlon fly because their stock was getting so low that it might actually get to the point of like delistment or something like that. You know, keep in mind if those stocks stay like under $1 or something like that for consecutive months or something, they could get taken off the market. So there was going to be some issues going on with them, Keisha, and they did end up, like, whenever you file for bankruptcy, keep in mind you're getting some money. Obviously, you know, like you're you know, obviously you're filing for bankruptcy and the government's kind of like giving your company money in a way. So that's helping them. You know, like they needed the bankruptcy right now. Unfortunately, I know you would definitely think that it's bad, and it is bad, but
the surge in prices of
their company was worse.
Resulted from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is boosting prices for gasoline and fuel, and is creating additional upward pressure on inflation. And COVID-19 related lockdowns in China are likely to exacerbate ongoing supply chain disruptions. Over the past year, inflation also increased rapidly in many foreign economies, as discussed in a box in the June Monetary Policy Report. Overall economic activity edged down in the first quarter as unusually sharp swings in inventories and net exports more than offset continued strong underlying demand. Recent indicators suggest that real GDP growth has picked up this quarter, with consumption spending remaining strong. In contrast, growth in business fixed investment appears to be slowing, and activity in the
Vic
housing
says,
sector
"Hi
looks
Tom,
to
how
be
do you see the
softening,
market playing
in
out
part
today,
reflecting
up or
higher
down?"
mortgage rates.
Was thinking of getting into
The
Tesla,
tightening in
Google, and
financial
Apple. Let's see.
conditions that we've seen in
Tesla,
recent months
Google, and
should
Apple.
continue to temper growth and help bring demand into
It's gonna be a
better
tough day for
balance
some of
with
these
supply.
stocks, I will say.
The
Tesla,
labor market
Google,
has
Apple,
remained
the three big
extremely tight,
ones.
with the unemployment rate near a
Ooh.
50-year low.
Look at this.
job
Apple's actually
vacancies that are
bouncing
still
right off
at
that
highs,
1,000
and
SMA,
wage growth
right at
elevated.
that like 135
Over the
resistance
past
for
3
you,
months,
Vic.
employment rose by an average of
Let's see.
408,000 jobs per month.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
down
tough
from
one
the
today.
average pace seen earlier in the year,
Personally,
but still robust.
right off the bat, I was thinking the
Improvements in
market
labor
would
market
fall
conditions have been
down
widespread,
today.
including
So I'm
for
probably
workers
going to
at the
stick
lower
with
end
my
of the
thoughts
wage
today,
distribution,
thinking that the
as
market
well
will
as for
fall
African
down.
Americans
But
and
keep in mind, we're
Hispanics.
already down, so we might
box
just
in the June
consolidate,
monetary
you
policy
know,
report discusses
under the low of
developments in
yesterday,
employment
under
and earnings
3.7. I
across
don't think that
all
we're going to
major
break out above
demographic groups.
376 today.
Labor
If that does
demand
happen,
is
then
very
fantastic.
strong, while
But
labor supply
personally, I
remains
think the
subdued,
market's going to just
with the labor
stay
force participation
stagnant.
rate little
So it's just going to
changed
stay
since
like
January.
within a range, like right around where it is, or it's going to start
The
falling
Fed's
off to the
monetary
downside a
policy
little bit.
actions are guided by our
Personally,
mandate to
I
promote
noticed
maximum
Apple looked pretty good to the
employment and stable
downside here.
prices for the
If you're
American
playing it
people.
off that 1,000 SMA,
My colleagues
sometimes
and
this
I are
1,000
acutely
SMA
aware
can be
that high
good. You can see it
inflation
bounced here, and we had a nice
poses
pop up.
significant
But
hardship,
sometimes it
especially
just
on
doesn't
those
even play
least
out at
able
all.
to meet
So
the
it just
higher
depends.
costs
But
of
today,
essentials like
that is a
food,
big
housing, and
resistance there at that
transportation.
135 level too.
We are
So
highly attentive
maybe
to the
Apple could be a
risks
good
that high
play.
inflation poses
It's hard to
both
short
sides
Apple
of our
though, you know,
mandate,
like it's just
and we're strongly
it's just
committed
very tough to
returning
do.
inflation to our 2% objective.
Big says it was
Against the
down, but
backdrop
Tesla
of the
isn't
rapidly
down. It's
evolving
actually
economic
up.
environment,
Yeah,
our
Tesla
policies
is
have
up.
been
Yeah,
adapting and will
Tesla.
continue to
Sorry,
do
I
so.
meant Apple and
With
Google was
inflation
what I was
well
looking
above
at.
our longer
Good
run
morning,
goal of
Hunter. How you
2%,
doing this morning? We're actually
and
watching Big
extremely
Daddy
tight
live
labor market,
today,
we
so
raised the target
thank you for
range
joining
federal
up.
funds
But
rate at
yeah,
each
we
of our
got him
past
on
3
here.
meetings,
But yeah,
resulting in a
Tesla's looking
1.5
decent.
percentage point increase
Honestly,
in the
Bick, it's a
target
very
range so
tough
far
one
this
today. I
year.
feel like the market's just going to go
The
flat or
committee
something.
reiterated that it
I don't
anticipates
really
that
see anything
ongoing
crazy happening today. You know,
increases
the
in
price
target
action
range
isn't
will be
even really
appropriate.
too crazy either.
In
So
May, we announced plans for reducing the size
I don't
of
know.
our balance sheet, and shortly
There's
thereafter
definitely big
began the
resistance here,
process
though,
of
at
significantly
372.
reducing our securities
like I said,
holdings.
I'm kind of leaning down.
Financial conditions
Oh my
have been
gosh,
tightened since last
Hunter.
fall and have now tightened significantly, reflecting
Hunter, did you
both
bring in
policy
these
actions
scammers?
that we have already taken, as well as anticipated
You
actions.
came in here, and then these guys came.
Over coming months, we'll be looking for compelling evidence
blame
that
you.
inflation is moving
No, I'm just
down,
joking.
consistent with inflation.
Yeah, Hunter goes, something's
returning
playing in the
to 2%.
background, I think. Yeah, I know,
Anticipate
actually,
that
Hunter. I know.
ongoing rate increases
We
will
have
be
Big Daddy
appropriate.
live today. We
Pace
were
of those
watching him
changes will
until
continue to depend
until
on
Bick
the
asked that
incoming
question
data
there.
and the evolving outlook for the economy.
We were watching him give
We'll
his
make
little
our
intro
decisions
speech
meeting
here.
by meeting, and we'll continue to communicate our thinking as clearly as possible. Our overarching focus is using
Is
our
it a
tools
good
to bring inflation
is it
back
a
down
good
to our
sound,
2%
Hunter?
goal
Is the sound
and
up
keep
good?
longer
Peter
term
said it sounded
inflation
good.
expectations well anchored. Making appropriate monetary policy in this uncertain environment requires a recognition that the economy often evolves in unexpected ways. Inflation has obviously surprised to the upside over the past year, and further surprises could be in store. We therefore will need to be nimble in responding to incoming data and the evolving outlook. And we will strive to avoid adding uncertainty in what is already an extraordinarily challenging and uncertain.
Hunter goes, I thought I was hearing
We are
things.
highly attentive
And
to
they
inflation
swarmed
risks and
immediately.
determined to take
It's
the
like you
measures
spawned 'em
necessary
in.
to restore price stability. The American economy is very strong and well positioned to handle tighter monetary policy. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and
Hunter
businesses
sees
across the country.
Altria getting whacked.
Everything we do is in
What's going
service
on
to
here?
our public mission.
Oh,
We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum
Oh,
employment
boy.
and price stability goals.
Hunter, what?
Thank you.
What the?
I look forward to your questions.
Thank you
Holy
very much.
shit. I'll be honest,
Chairman,
Philip
on
Morris
behalf
doesn't look
of
very
the
far
Executive
behind
Branch,
Hunter.
I
God
thank
damn, that is a
everyone.
bad move down.
Thank you, Acting
MO.
Chairman. I appreciate the help of the chairman
Wow.
this morning. And thank you for being
That is
with us,
insane.
Chair Powell. So Americans are struggling with rising
I can't
costs,
believe
and all
MO's
eyes
down that
turn
much.
to the Fed. Last
Yeah, I
week,
feel
they
like
announced
PM's
the
not gonna
Fed
be
would
too far
raise
along, though,
rates
Hunter.
by 3/4
Another cigarette
percentage
company.
Point, the biggest
Oh my God.
increase in nearly
It's
30 years.
Pocahontas.
So let's talk about what the Fed is and isn't doing when it raises interest rates to
Holy
try to
crap,
bring down
guys. I was
inflation.
not expecting
Let's start
Elizabeth
with gas
Warren to be out
prices.
here.
The price of gas is up 40%
Wow, I didn't know we were going to get a
since
celebrity
Russia
appearance
invaded
right now.
Ukraine in February. February.
That
Chair
is
Powell,
funny.
will gas prices go down as a result of your interest rate increase?
Man.
I would not think so, no.
Okay.
Hey, Hunter, go check your Snapchat. You'll get a kick out of this one.
That matters because gas prices.
Keisha says, sounds great. I love this. It does break up the monotony of
Energy
things.
prices
Yeah, I feel like it does.
drove
You know, it
a
does.
third
It's something
of the
different today. It's a
inflation
little fun
but
here.
the Fed's tools,
Big
as
says
you
Tesla
say,
is
have
flying
no
up
impact
now.
here. So let's look at another necessity.
Let's go check it out.
Food.
Good old Tesla.
Price of groceries is up
Tessie.
nearly 12%.
Wow,
this
Tesla's
year.
all the
Americans
way
feel
back
the
up
pinch,
big.
no matter
That
how
is a
much
big
groceries cost,
recovery
people
today,
still
actually.
gotta
Now we're
eat.
positive.
Chair Powell, will the
We were
Fed's
looking pretty
interest
rough,
rate
actually.
increases
That is
bring
a
food
big
prices
move
down
back
for
up, actually. That
families?
is a
I wouldn't say so, no.
pretty crazy move.
Okay. So a Fed increase won't bring down these prices. And why? Because rate hikes won't make Vladimir Putin turn his tanks around and leave Ukraine. Rate hikes won't break up monopolies. Rate hikes won't straighten out the supply chain or speed up ships or stop a virus that is still causing lockdowns in some parts of the world. So let's talk about what interest rate increases can do. Chair Powell, you said last week that interest rate increases, quote, moderate demand. Can you just explain a little more about what that means?
Sure. So we think about interest rate increases as affecting financial conditions and then the economy through three broad channels, the first of which is interest-sensitive spending. So that's durable goods and automobiles and things like that. So interest rates go up, people's demand for as a result of higher interest rates will moderate or decline so that supply and demand can get into better balance. The second channel is just asset prices generally. Interest rates, as they go up, will cause asset prices to moderate.
Wow, did they come back again?
And people spend a little bit less out of their
What is going on with those things?
Wealth. The third channel is the exchange rate, which is really just another asset price, and that just basically as the dollar strengthens. As rates go up, the dollar would strengthen, which would tend to drive.
So I appreciate this, and I do. I appreciate the explanation. But let me just see if I can just put a little more plain vanilla explanation of what's going on here. If I understand what you've said and what economists are saying across the board is that when you raise interest rate, there's going to be less money to invest, and that is it's going to dampen business investment. Is that a fair statement?
I think the idea is to
moderate
demand
to invest
so that it can be in better balance with supply. And
so
the current situation, demand is well in excess of supply.
That person, I feel like, in the background, they keep like leaving and going. I feel like they don't know if they're supposed to be there or not.
Out of work, and when they're out of work, they have less money to spend. So I get that rate increases stop companies from spending.
Keisha said, also, did you hear Elon is now the richest person in the world, taking Bezos' spot?
Right,
I thought Elon was already the richest man in the world.
Inclined to do that. I think that's what you just said on asset prices.
I already thought that. I mean, maybe he fell back down because he spent some money or something.
As you know, you have,
did he retake it, I guess?
Situation where there's a
she also says MO or Altria is tanking because Biden's mandating companies to remove nicotine in cigarettes.
The labor market back into
balance. Wow, that sounds crazy.
I appreciate you call it back into balance. What I'm trying to get at, though,
removing nicotine from cigarettes. Why not just get rid of cigarettes in general, I guess, at that point, you know? I mean,
is that it increases.
Why would you remove nicotine? I thought the whole thing that got you the cancer was the tobacco. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe they both do. I don't know. I'm sure they both do in the way.
Concerned about this is rate increases make it more likely.
I know the nicotine is addicting, of course, so I understand, but I'm just saying. You would think they'd want to get rid of the cancer-causing thing.
Rate increases also make it more expensive.
All right.
For families to do things like borrow money for a house, and so far, the cost this year of a mortgage has already doubled. Inflation is like an illness, and the medicine needs to be tailored to the specific problem.
Inflation's like an illness, she says.
Things a lot worse.
Honestly, she sounds like what she's been saying here is pretty good.
Control over the main drivers of rising prices, but the Fed can slow demand by getting a lot of people fired and making families poorer. And while President Biden is working to increase energy supplies and straighten out supply chain kinks and break up monopolies and bring down prices, you could actually tip this economy into recession. So I just want to say, you know what's worse than high inflation and low unemployment? It's high inflation and a recession with millions of people out of work. And I hope you'll reconsider that as you drive this, before you drive this economy off a cliff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
Wow,
On behalf
that
of
was
Senator
funny.
Brown, Senator
I
Tillett.
hope you consider this before you drive this economy off a cliff.
Senator Shelby go before me, and then I'll follow in turn.
Quite all right, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Powell, earlier this month, Secretary
I thought that sounded
Yellen
pretty good.
acknowledged she was wrong about the risk of inflation. Previously, you also acknowledged that the Fed got it wrong in thinking that inflation would be transitory. Yet myself and other members of this banking committee here have been warning about inflation for over a
You
year.
got it wrong.
Last
He's talking about
July,
transitory.
nearly 1 year ago, when you came before this committee, I raised my concerns about the risk of rising inflation, particularly following the enactment of a $2 trillion spending bill. At that time, there was already evidence that inflation was affecting numerous areas of our economy. I discussed the year-to-year price increases on agricultural goods such as corn, wheat, and soybeans at that time. I pointed out the rising cost of metals, including copper and aluminum. I mentioned the increase in energy prices, used cars, and airline tickets. As someone who remembers, and I do from this committee, encountering high inflation during the 70s, I warned that many of the same conditions present then, such as loose monetary policy and significant government spending, were occurring again, among other things. My main concern last year was that the Federal Reserve would fail to address rising inflation before it was too late. 11 months later, this concern has come to fruition. And as we sit here today, inflation, as you've already pointed out, is at a 40-year high. The average gas price is over $5 a gallon, and we are currently in the midst of 12 consecutive months of inflation above 5%, including spiking to 8.6 last month. Ultimately, Mr. Chairman, as inflation continues to run rampant,
I knew they would be
the
talking
Federal
about
Reserve
inflation
and this
almost this whole time.
administration failed the American people by not heeding these warnings a year ago and by not acting sooner to address it. We're where we are today. I know that.
Let me go check back in on some stocks here, guys. Let's go check back in on Tessie really quick. Looks like Tesla's slowing down right around that high of yesterday. Seems like there's some big resistance up there close to 730. Looks like Tesla's starting to slow down a little bit. DraftKings is actually still breaking in a big way, breaking above the high of this week and last week. Looks like Zoom, yeah, they're starting to pull back a little bit.
And I know you don't have
You know, I am seeing AMC, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but AMC is actually having a pretty good day. Let's see, Revlon's still up, guys. It's up to $9 now, up 48%. I mean, that is a pretty good day overall, honestly. Like, that is
and that's appropriate.
not bad.
Well, as you pointed out, as Senator Tillis pointed out as well, our policy rate is only at 1.6%, but all out the curve, the market is pricing in increases. So financial conditions have already priced in additional rate increases.
Rev.
But we need to go ahead
Snapchat
and
here.
I think that the most recent
Snapchat's having a pretty good morning too.
inflation
Netflix,
indicators, of various
pretty good
kinds
day.
suggest to us that we
CrowdStrike.
need to
I mean, hey,
accelerate-
stocks are
we
coming
need
back.
to
I'll take
accelerate
it.
the
I hope
pace
they don't all fall
at
back
which we
down to
get
the
up
red
to a
though.
level
I will say there
that
is some
neutral.
bad plays in the red, like
That is close
Oxy,
to the long-run
unfortunately,
neutral level, and then
fell
we
back
can make an
off.
assessment
Zom
of
is
how much
falling
further and
down.
faster to go.
Seems like some of these
So
oil plays are
that's what
falling
we're
back
doing.
off. I know
I think
Baba
you can
was,
see from,
yeah,
from the
Baba's
moves
actually
we're
looking pretty
making now
terrible
that
today,
we do
guys. Yeah.
understand the full scope
Yeah,
of the
banks
problem,
aren't really too
and
good.
we're
They're down in the
using our
red.
tools to address
JP
it
Morgan,
pretty
Bank of
vigorously.
America.
Mr. Chairman,
Kroger's
explain
down
to
a
us
little bit.
Again, how important.
But,
one of
you
your
know, some
mandates
stocks are
is
green.
price stability.
Some stocks
How
are green.
important price
I'll give it
stability
that, like
is to
Lucid,
all
Rivian, Rocket
So,
Lab, AI.
Price stability is really,
You know, those
the
types of
bedrock
stocks
the
are
economy
still
in
green.
this sense, in
I'm
the
sad
sense
that Kraft
you-
is
you
falling
really
back off. They
cannot
were having a
have
great
a
morning,
sustained
but
period of maximum
bad.
employment, our other co-equal goal. You can't have that without price stability. And so we must restore price stability, and we will. We have the tools and the resolve and hopefully the judgment to accomplish that task.
What's
essential that we do.
What's your next step?
Well, if you look at the market has been I think reading our reaction function reasonably well, and I think what you will see is continued progress toward.
yeah, if you guys are liking this type of stream today, just smash that like button. You know, I know it's a little bit different. It is cool to kind of see Powell in the morning, of course. That always helps. Normally, we don't have events right at market open, so it's kind of interesting today. Powell looks like he's about to fall asleep. I mean, hey, he's like, man, I'm used to talking at 2:30 in the afternoon. This is too early for me. No, I'm just joking, but
40 years
yeah, he's
to bring in
pretty funny testimony today. Not funny, but it's always cool to watch them grill him, I guess, on certain issues, and sometimes it's pretty entertaining.
It is the thing that we need so that we can get back to the kind of labor market that we all want.
But reaching the standard that Volcker left at the Fed would be a high reach, but one that anybody there should try to get there, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Man.
Thank you, Senator Shelby.
What's up with these guys? How do they keep
Mr.
doing
Chairman,
this?
You point out in your testimony
They keep coming in here so quick.
Personal consumption expenditures.
Sorry, Keisha. We're getting them out, and then they come back in with goddamn different names. Like
decline from the previous report.
I'm gonna report this to YouTube right now.
The real culprits, gas.
I'm gonna say it's
first
pornography.
The issue of
we'll say that. I mean,
is a global phenomenon. Is that correct?
I'm going to report every single one of these.
Gas prices are a function of oil prices to a significant extent, and then the refining spread as well.
Right, and that's has been exacerbated by the Ukraine invasion. We've deliberately.
Can't believe how these bots are now.
Deliberately cut off.
You should see all the stuff we do to try to get rid of bots, and then they still come.
And that's added to inflation. And the other problem also with hydrocarbons, it's a cartel that sets the price. Is that accurate?
Sorry, what's a cartel?
It's a cartel that sets the price of oil worldwide.
Yes, globally, that cartel has a very major
given like
impact
18 reports on
and
this.
And they have decided that further production is not.
I'm reporting every single one of their messages.
Just sitting back and making money. That's what it appears like.
It says streamer recommends. Like, get out of here.
There are multiple factors here also.
Nobody recommends that stuff.
We've seen loss of arable land. We've seen a lot of factors. All of this is outside the purview of the Federal Reserve, but I think it's helpful.
I'm reporting some of them for child abuse too, Hunter. Maybe that'll get their eyes more.
Transportation issues with respect to food. That's a function of higher diesel costs. A function of lack of drivers. Again,
I reported them all. I just went through and reported each one, which is funny.
Exported from Ukraine or from Russia, as well as
wow, this guy is.
That's driving the price. And then the rental affordable housing issue, that has been a crisis since I became a congressman in 1990. I recall marching in Washington for affordable housing in 1990. We just don't have enough, and that I think is a factor too. Are those the major causes for these increases in prices?
Those are some of the major ones. You could also point to some parts of the goods economy which have been restrained capacity, and you're actually seeing significant price increases in
Come on, Powell.
some of the service economy as it really reopens fully now, and that would be the travel. And
Come on, Powell.
Sector.
We need you to pump the market up.
Issue too. We talked about the cartels.
Give some better answers.
Hydrocarbons,
it looks like it's honestly the market's doing quite well today, guys. I mean, we're recovering up almost back up to the closing price of yesterday. I mean, I'll take it.
And with
it's definitely not too bad here today. The market's coming back. We have QQQ up. We have Revlon up 50% here. Like, if it would load, 42%. It was like 48% a minute ago.
Some of my colleagues, particularly in the House, have been talking about the
Hunter goes, this is much more interesting than my class right now. Yeah. It probably is. Some of those classes probably get very repetitive.
Competition authorities, not for us, but sure, some. I think,
especially the hard ones.
Our economy is very competitive. There will be some industries where that's less so the case.
So these range of you have to take action, and your basically tool is interest rates and going in and out of buying public security.
He's like, so basically your tool is your interest rates.
We have a lot of work to do too, which is to try to resolve some of these issues, and we have to do it.
I kind of thought what Elizabeth Warren was saying earlier wasn't too bad, honestly. I mean, it sounded good.
I was very pleased to see the president sign the legislation with respect to shipping reform. That's a step, but we have to do much more too. Is that accurate?
I think that's really a question for you. We're very focused on sticking to our knitting and carrying out the task that we've been assigned.
No, I appreciate that, and the independence of the Fed is something that has to be protected by everyone, including particularly yourself. A final sort of issue that I'm thinking of, we're at a tremendous, I think, turning point in our economy. Factors that 10, 15 years ago were not active, things like social media, et cetera. But one other factor, too, with respect to hydrocarbons is perhaps the companies are either unconsciously or consciously limiting investment because they're anticipating an electrified power supply, electric cars, electric everything. Is that something that the Fed is looking at?
I think that is certainly, if you pick up the annual report of any of the big oil companies, you'll see that that is something that is happening, and it's a rational economic response to, expectations about where future policy is headed.
No, I think there are so many factors here, but I think it's good to get some of them on the table. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. With that, let me recognize Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Senator Reid. Again, Chair Powell, thank you for being here.
Senator Reid.
By the Fed's own analysis of various policy rules, including the Taylor Rule, the revised Taylor Rule, the Balanced Approach Rule, and the Balanced Approach Shortfall Rule, rates should have begun to rise long before they did. According to the Fed's own analysis of these rules, the Fed's fund rate should currently be above 6%. This is in a report to Congress. Yet the rate currently stands at 1.6%. Likewise, these same rules should have prompted the Fed to begin raising rates Q4 last year, Q1 this year.
Yeah, that's like what I was thinking,
I'm concerned that the Fed has opted out of rules-based to discretionary monetary policy. As the Fed reviews monetary policy strategy, Chair Powell, will you commit to considering an increased weight for a rules-based strategy in Fed decision-making, and if not, why?
So we do use policy rules like the various forms of the Taylor Rule in all of the analysis that we do. If you're thinking about how monetary policy will affect the economy, you have to have some sort of a rule like that. The Fed's never really used
this is very interesting,
a
guys.
way to actually set policy in real time. But that's not to say they don't shed light, and we do consult them. We consult them on an ongoing basis. The rules called for deeply negative rates during the pandemic, and we didn't do that. They did call, of course, for rates to move up, and rates now really are moving up much closer to where the Taylor Rule, various forms of the Taylor Rule are, and I think by the end of the year we'll be pretty close to where some of the Taylor Rule iterations are. So it's something that we consider. I think in a couple of years when we look at our framework again, that's something we could look at.
And Chair Powell, could you just briefly explain the variance between rules-based decision-making being at 6 and where we are today? What other factors came into play?
So what Taylor rules don't take into consideration changes in financial conditions. They just look at the overnight policy rate. As I mentioned earlier, we began signaling, and the way we're set up now to signal policy changes going forward with the summary of economic projections that we do 4 times a year. So markets price that in, and you're getting a lot of policy tightening well in advance of actually raising rates. As you pointed out, we're at 1.6% only on the federal funds rate.
Yeah, Tessie's rising. That is awesome.
Look out the rate curve. All the very substantial additional rate hikes are already priced in, and they're affecting financial conditions, and they have been for several months. So that's one way of thinking about it. It's really only at the very short end of the curve where rates are still in negative territory from a real perspective. If you look farther out, real rates are positive right across the curve, and that's really what you're trying to achieve with policy in a situation like this where we have 40-year highs in inflation, and we know we need to have restrictive policy, and that's where we're headed.
Thank you. In 2012, the Fed adopted its current 2% inflation target, then amended this in 2020 to allow inflation to run over 2% target so that inflation averages 2% over time. Many warned this approach would simply give inflation a foothold before the Fed could respond. Now inflation's at 6.5% per year, and many serious analysts are predicting a recession. According to the Fed's framework, will the Fed push inflation below 2% so that it averages 2% over time?
No, that wasn't the way the framework worked. And I should clarify, though, the framework was carefully focused on what we knew, which was the economy of the last 25 years. The pandemic hit a few months afterward, and I think we've been aware since reasonably quickly after that
I've been really liking this current testimony, guys. This guy who asked this question is great.
At least temporarily by a whole different set of forces, and those are the forces that our policy has been reacting and dealing with, and we're well aware of that. I think that what we were looking at was a world in which you didn't see inflation move up even when unemployment was for an extended period well below 4%. This is a different economy, different forces. The real question is, how long will this new set of forces be sustained? And we can't know that. But in the meantime, our job is to find price stability and maximum employment in this new economy.
And final question is, there is some renewed discussions about increased spending and increased taxes through reconciliation. Just hypothetically, if Congress were to pass a bill that increased spending by $500 billion or $1 trillion and raise taxes, would that make your job easier or more difficult?
I swore off getting involved in these fiscal debates a year or so ago, and I'm determined to see if I can't stick to that. But remember, we can always incorporate. And what we do is we take fiscal policy as given, and we react appropriately.
Well, then maybe instead of policy working through Congress, but policy that was passed by Congress, do you believe that the $1.9 trillion spending package last year had any effect on inflation?
It's really not our job to pass judgment. We didn't pass judgment on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act or the CARES Act or that act as well, the ARP. So I really think that's a job for Congressional Budget Office.
Thank you, Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Senator.
They tried to get him to say something bad there, but he didn't want to. That's funny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Powell, thank you for
He tried to
being
get him
here.
to say
Let
something
me
bad
start
about
with,
Biden's
high prices.
budget thing getting passed,
not
I
only
think.
Nevada, but across the country, we're seeing
Yeah, good
high
morning,
food,
George.
housing,
Hey,
and gas
thanks for
prices,
joining up.
which,
Yeah, Keisha
really
says it's
is
afternoon
creating
now.
a
Yeah, it
financial
almost
hardship
is.
for too many families.
Almost is.
And I want to start with gas prices first. In
Yeah, we've been
Nevada,
watching Powell this morning,
average price of
George. It's
gas
been a
is
pretty good morning.
$5.60. In Las Vegas, about $5.60.
It's been interesting. It's been a little bit different today. Mixing things up.
And as
we got
gas
Tessie over
prices
here on the
rise
side of the
across
screen
country,
running.
Oil
Looks
and
like
gas
she's actually
companies, we know, are making
looking
record
pretty hot right
profits,
now,
but are
not gonna
using
lie.
that money to
She is,
continue to
wanting to look
consolidate
like
their
she's gonna
industry
pop.
and pay for stock buybacks instead of investing in increased oil production. On one of them, and one I've heard is over 9,000
George
permits that
says,
they have
"Aha."
unused drilling permits.
He goes, I never know what time it is here in the
outstanding
USA.
refining
It's
capacity.
always afternoon
We
here
also
in
know
Europe.
that reduced finding
So I'm just
capacity is
being
a particular
considerate to
problem
you.
that has been caused in
Thanks,
large
George.
part by decades of oil industry consolidation.
It is the
and
morning, by
is
the way. It
driving gas
is
price hikes
where
to
I
be
am,
as much
anyways.
as
In the
61 cents a
Central, it's
gallon higher than
9:18
expected. So
Eastern
when
time. It's going
considering
to be
the drivers of
10:18.
inflation,
And
how
actually on the
much
West Coast right now,
the
it's going to
Federal
be
Reserve
like
economists consider
6:18 or
consolidation
like
in an
7:18
industry,
or something
and what
like
else
that.
can we do to hold
So,
these
yeah,
industries
it's definitely still the morning.
accountable for their contributions to rising prices?
I
guess if you're on the East Coast, it is getting close to noon, though.
For the competition authorities, questions of industry structure and consolidation, they really aren't questions that we directly address. We raise interest rates, and our job is maximum employment.
But I have to push back. You have to consider that. I mean, you're considering what's happening in Ukraine as a variable on inflation and high prices. So you have to consider the fact that we have these oil companies. They are exclusively control this commodity that is key for this country. We know that not only do they produce and decide how and when they're going to drill crude oil, we also know the refineries, and quite honestly, the refineries in this country are not prepared to refine the domestic oil that even comes from Texas and the Dakotas. The refineries are prepared to refine the oil that comes from out of this country.
Yeah,
And
George says different stream today. I'm loving to see it. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of different today. If you like it, hit that like button, of course. Thank you so much for joining up today, George. I didn't know where you were. I honestly thought I was like, oh no, he doesn't like this today or something.
And why I am a co-sponsor of the
yeah, thank you so much for joining up here.
Glencore was just
definitely
fine.
different.
$1.1 billion.
Kind of cool to listen to Powell's testimony here and see the stocks here too. Looks like Tesla's about to break, guys.
So that is something
here we go.
To take into consideration.
Tesla's about to run.
Industry like
come on, can we get that breakout? There we go.
So consolidated, they are having an impact.
Let's break 730.
On the prices, to the detriment of the people in my state.
Oh.
So that has to be something you consider and take into consideration when you're looking at the impact that people across the country are seeing from these high prices. I hope it is. Please tell me you are.
Well, I think we see that the global oil prices, which have very important effects on gas prices here at home, are set on the global market, and that, as we mentioned earlier, there's a large cartel that is responsible to a significant extent for setting those prices. We take that as given.
So do you pay attention to what is Wall Street is saying and what these cartels are doing? When you say cartels, these are these big oil companies, and they're indicating that, well, I'm not going to drill because I'm making profits because the price of gas is so high. So you would assume, I would hope that you would take that into consideration, that it's going to continue these high prices because there is a challenge in holding these oil companies accountable.
So in principle, we pay attention to anything that could affect the use of our tools and the need to use our tools. And I think with the future price
George
of oil,
says I managed to get
the best
Tesla during the meeting, though. Yeah, nice.
You
had a work call.
Okay. Taking into account.
Gotcha. So you got into Tesla during that meeting. I mean, they've had a pretty good morning here going, George.
For us is, do we
You're probably having a pretty good day on your hands so far.
Then that would address these.
He also says Zoom is giving me the middle finger, though. Oh no.
Of course, we understand them.
Oh no.
Well, do you have concerns that these oil companies are manipulating?
I mean, it's doing good.
It's
just
that we have right now.
Not the best.
Do you take that into consideration?
Yeah, I guess it's coming back down, but yeah, that's too bad, George.
Reduce inflation and reduce these costs.
Honestly, those are not judgments for us to make. The questions about industry structure and competition are really not. It's not our assignment. Our assignment is maximum employment and price stability.
The outcome of that infrastructure is something you've got to take into consideration.
Yes, very
Unless they change, the prices are not coming down. Unless they stop giving profits and sharing that with their shareholders and start addressing and looking at actually the consumer at the other end of this. Who is bearing the brunt of it, these prices are not going to come down. I would assume you take that into consideration. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think this lady is...
You say take it into consideration. We do have to have a forecast of oil prices, and we do. But ultimately, though, the question for us is price inflation. What's happening with price inflation?
There we go.
And it's a macro.
Tesla got that big break right there of 730, guys. Here we go. Maybe we'll get that second leg up today.
What will be the behavior?
Hopefully this makes up for Zoom here, George.
And in particular, there's
the cartel of oil. It does seem like that, doesn't it, Vicky?
There's a little, food prices is a bit more mixed, but for oil prices, they're set at the global level. It has to do with global oil prices and also the refining spread. Neither of these are things that we have the tools to affect.
Does it concern you that these oil companies haven't come to the table to look for a solution to help us reduce fuel costs?
I don't think it's appropriate for the Fed or for me to be reaching out into areas of policy that are not assigned to us. It's not up to us to comment on that sort of
I like how Powell's saying this.
Specific job.
He's like, I don't even want to comment. It's not my, you're trying to politicize this, and he's like, I
stick to that job.
We're just sticking to our job.
Maximum employment and price stability.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My time is up.
Thanks, sir.
I think this is why a lot of people like Powell. I think this is why Biden even left Powell in, is just because he doesn't ever do anything political like that.
Couple of times that
I think he pissed that lady off.
Inflation has been a primary item of discussion. I want to follow up, just as my colleagues have, and I'd like to take it in a little bit different path, perhaps, because when it comes to breaking down the different causes of inflation, clearly there is the supply side and the demand side. And the reality is that a large portion of the inflation stems from the higher energy prices which is part of the supply side.
Yeah, Vicky, I was asking earlier if the sound was good, and everyone said it was pretty good.
January of 2021 through January of 2022.
Thank you for the feedback, though.
The price of unleaded gas has increased by 50% during that time
Increased theirs
period,
a little bit.
from $2.33 to about $3.30
I think
per
that'll help.
gallon. Now, that was well before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Higher prices are instead, I believe, a direct result of policy decisions made by the Biden administration, like prohibiting new oil and gas leases on public lands and waters and choking off future access through the Keystone XL pipeline and increasing U.S. dependence on foreign energy sources by actively calling on OPEC to produce more oil. All of these seem to send a terrible message to the market about the future of investing in oil and gas.
You know, they're talking about oil. Tesla's starting to pull back a little bit. Let's go check out crude oil. Let's see how crude's looking
At
here.
the same time, Mr. Chairman,
here we got crude futures here up on the chart.
As we've discussed in the past, to impact not necessarily the supply side, but the demand side of inflation. So if you attempt to use your tools that are available at this time,
I guess it's probably not going to move too much.
What I believe to be the policy.
He's not really responding to anything. Wow, look at the SPY, guys. SPY is all the way above the high of yesterday. Let's go. Let's go. That is a great day. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if this is Powell helping or what, but yeah, we have Meta running, SPY's running up. Look at that. We have Teladoc running up 7%, guys. I mean, that is
I think that's right.
That's great to see, all the way up to $34 today. I mean,
certain aspects of
yeah, that is awesome. We got DraftKings up 5% up to $12.88.
So
hell yeah.
Nonetheless,
great day, guys. Great day in the market.
Is headline inflation, but we also know that core inflation is actually a better indicator of headline inflation than headline inflation itself is, because
oh, there we go. Tesla got that second leg up to 737, guys.
That's been the history.
Big move.
Core enables us to look through that volatility.
George, those Tesla calls you have
so
must be printing right now.
As
those must be
a better representation of what underlying inflation of the economy is at any given time.
And I think but in this particular case, that core inflation.
Thank you for deleting those, Hunter.
Include some of those
Sorry about that, guys. They keep posting those
portions of inflation. They have proven not to be transitory. In fact, South Dakotans are now.
I see what you're saying now.
$682 more per month on goods and services than they were when President Biden took office due to inflation. The administration is claiming the Federal Reserve can fix our inflation problem. But as you goes, no, they're back. You focus on core, and your tools might very well work on
George
core,
says up 12% on Tesla. There we go. Very nice, George, and it looks like Tesla keeps going up for you.
Seeing like the rest of the country.
I don't know. I would expect it to start to slow down soon, though, so keep that in mind, George. I do expect some type of slowdown to come in.
You are aware that
here in a second.
You're going to be the person that takes the fall if inflation is not brought under control. And this administration is going to point to you and to the Federal Reserve saying you have the tools to fix inflation and you're not doing your job, when in essence, the portion of inflation which Americans are feeling today may not just be the core inflation that some of your tools do, but the total cost of inflation that my citizens in South Dakota feel to the tune of, well, $682 more per month in living expenses than what they were when this administration took office.
So we're focused on the part of it that we can address, and that is there's a job to do on demand here. There are parts of the economy where demand exceeds supply, and that's where we think our tools can help, and that's what we're focused on.
Very good.
Very good, Powell.
Just very briefly, Mr. Chairman,
very
another
good
item.
there.
The Basel Committee.
And Tesla, yep, there it goes. It's starting to slow down a little bit.
Press release indicating that it had made substantial.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting it to turn over right there. Maybe somewhere close to like 740, but
global systemically important banks, the GSIBs. Do you, the Federal Reserve as being a part of this organization, do you believe right now that this change reflects the views of the Federal Reserve as an influential member of the Basel Committee? Apparently, it looks like this may very well provide some advantages to our European banks over U.S. banks based upon this reassessment of how they view risk within the EU community.
So my understanding of that is that it's really about supervisors being able to use discretion about transactions that go across national lines within the European Union.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply at all here. And ultimately, the capital rules that Europeans apply are decided by Europeans, not by us.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Rounds. Senator Warner from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Powell, it's good to see you again. Thank you for your service to our country. I want to go a couple of different directions. First, and I think some colleagues have already raised this.
Keisha says, hey, Mike Rounds, he gave my daughter a nomination to get in the United States Air Force Academy. Really?
Global phenomena.
That sounds awesome.
Even the Cato Institute.
That's really cool,
Keisha. Doesn't always necessarily agree with folks on my sides of the aisle.
And congratulations to her. That's a really cool academy.
In many industrial countries around the world is running at the same rates, if not higher than us. I frankly just returned from a bipartisan trip to Finland.
What do we have over here? I got a stock breaking out almost. We have good old NEO, guys.
Turkey, I think
NEO is running up towards that high of this week around 23.10. We're getting really close. Looks like we might try to break that there to the upside. It looks like it's like a tough one, but
Joe Biden's
yeah, there she goes.
Here in Finland too. The point being that a lot of these effects are not due to any single country's activities, but it is a global.
Vicky, we got Fubo running.
Already acknowledged the effect that the Russia-Ukraine war has. Some of the disruption.
DraftKings almost hit $13 just now, guys. There we go. Palantir. 924. Netflix with a great day. I mean, hey,
in terms of their
let's go, guys. Let's go. Smash that like button. Of course, this is a pretty good day in the market so far.
Months on end, and how that supply chain disruption is floating through. The whole
it was a bit of a different live stream today, guys. We'll probably wrap it up here in a little while,
right.
but. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely let me know if you liked a little bit of change today. Of course, every single day we can't be watching Powell live in the morning because it doesn't work.
But there are important differences.
I wish he was live every day in the morning.
Characteristics of that inflation.
We got, what's this here? What was this one again? Netflix is now up to 180, guys. I mean, look at that intraday move. That is insane to the upside. Tesla, DraftKings. Here we go. Tesla's breaking back out to a new high of day here. There we go. That is big. All the way up to 738 now. Almost 740, George. Hopefully she keeps going for you if you still have those calls.
Coming out of that period of
Keisha
lockdown,
goes, no, don't go.
Growth seems to be picking up. Advanced indicators are that their economy may be recovering.
No, don't go.
But of course,
I'll wait a little while, Keisha. We'll stay live with Powell
as long as
here
it's
today.
in place, it certainly could. You could certainly have a relapse given this highly
nice and
contagious
relaxed
disease.
here.
Let me and again, we're all looking for
not like the usual live streams where I
frankly. I'm glad.
Where I sound like an auctioneer with the
stocks.
stocks.
Folks on my side of the aisle are concerned about the president visiting Saudi Arabia and visiting with the leadership of that regime. I think you got to.
Vicky says, "Thank you, Tom. I always enjoy your lives." Yeah, thank you, Vicky. Thanks so much for joining up. Of course.
I'm a little less.
Mike says, "Woohoo, DraftKings!" Yeah, there we go. Thank you, George. Mike Chang says, "Wow, Disney is up." Even let's see, good old Disney, DIS.
As we see,
it is up to 94. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, I'll take it with Disney. I mean, it's not up like a lot of stocks are breaking back above those highs of yesterday. Disney had a rough day yesterday, unfortunately. So did Meta. But I will say, Meta's coming back in a pretty good way. Guys, if you guys like the 1000 SMA, Meta's kind of having like a pretty good move here, right around it. If we start to see it bounce back up to like 160 or something, I think we might be able to catch this one back up. Looks like a pretty good like day trading opportunity right here back to the upside, I think, with Meta, guys. Lots of stocks are running. They're only up like 1.7%. They have had some pretty crazy news. Keisha says, look at Apple. Oh, yeah, let's check that out. There we go. Wow, 137.76. It's only up 1.2%, but hey, have a good week, Apple. I'll take that. Let's see that 1 year daily with them.
Requires a semiconductor chip. And right
the
now,
daily looks a lot better, I think.
Auto inflation.
Yeah, we have 3 green days in a row here. It looks like it's pretty solid.
Supply.
We'll be running up to around that 140 resistance probably.
Literally sitting warehouse waiting.
George says Zoom is not moving.
This legislation, $52 billion.
It's up 4.8%. What do you mean it's not moving, George? Because I guess it's stuck. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at that on the 1 minute.
If we
that
don't
is
do
funny,
this,
George.
I don't think there'll be another semiconductor facility.
I mean, it's up, but it's just not moving.
Some have been announced.
You're definitely right.
The fact that,
I feel like that this one will start to pop back up, though, maybe. This is a pretty good
investment
area of consolidation,
Intel
it looks
recently
like.
announced $8
It's
billion
not falling
from the
off.
German
It's holding
government,
its
when the German
ground, which is
bureaucracy
good.
and European bureaucracy
But yeah,
moves
Apple's
faster than
definitely
the
looking
American
crazy. It
legislative
is pulling
process.
back a little
I don't care
right
which
now,
side of the
but
aisle we're on.
it'll probably
We're in
be
trouble.
running back up within
So
just
in
a
the
couple
last
more minutes.
few seconds, I know you don't want to
Tessie's
weigh
still
in on
breaking out,
specific,
guys. We're almost back up to 740,
piece of
actually.
legislation, but the notion
How is Tesla
of
still running? I mean,
investment
that
in
is
a
just...
key industry component
That
like
is just insane.
semiconductors.
George, are you still in
long-term
Tesla?
terms of keeping inflationary pressures
George
down,
says Google looks
right
the
move
same
on
as
that.
Apple and Microsoft.
Again, I wouldn't, as you say, I wouldn't comment on a specific legislative proposal.
Talk about the industry
I'll just say that
Apple.
I do think we learned a lot about global
Microsoft.
supply chains, and we're still
Yeah, they
learning.
do look
It's
the
important
same.
to take the right
I think
lessons,
Apple and
I
Microsoft look
think
more
it's
of the same than Google
an
does,
important,
but yeah, I think they are
area
very,
to
very
explore
close there,
about how
George.
we can harden
God
up
dang
and
it,
improve
get out of here.
our
What is
sourcing
this?
capabilities, including
Sorry
what
about this,
deserve- what should
guys.
be
Of course,
here.
don't click on that.
Thanks, Senator Warner. Senator Kennedy from Louisiana is
Of course, do not click on that stuff, guys. Sorry for that. I am reporting them.
Mr. Chairman,
But the unfortunate thing is they just keep coming
inflation
back no
is,
matter what we do, you know?
is just an
So sorry for that,
imbalance of
guys. There we
supply
go.
and
Looks like
demand. Can we
740 was
agree
the
on that?
high up there. With Tesla, we are probably going to have some consolidation now, as expected, I would
To
think.
put a little finer point on it,
Yeah, George, I was thinking
our
that
inflation
740
at
would
this
be
time,
somewhere around the
this
top.
is the case with respect
That
to
still might
most
not be the top
cases
here.
of
I mean, obviously, we
inflation.
could still come
Demand is
back.
greater
but
than
I feel like that's
supply,
going to be
so
somewhere
prices go up.
in some
in the
parts
background.
of the
Mike
economy.
Chang says, oh man, that guy's
Now,
back.
you're
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
unfortunate,
lower,
isn't it?
so we've got a situation where demand's
We
up
can't
here,
help it,
supply's
Mike. I
down.
mean, we
You're
do
trying
everything
to
we
lower
can to
demand.
try to stop
Is that
these
correct?
scammers coming in. And
Yes, while also
You just
giving the
can't.
supply side time to recover. There's some ground to be covered on that side.
Yes, but you've talked about
Carlos,
your
did you
role,
really
scope,
click
and
that,
mission,
or are you
and
yanking
your
my
job
chain?
is monetary. You're
He
trying
goes,
to
dang,
lower
Tom,
demand.
I wish you would have told
Well, I'm
me
trying to lower.
not
Well, I
to
would
click
say
sooner.
lower demand growth. We
Yeah,
don't know
please
that
don't
it has
click
to,
that,
demand has
guys.
to
We're,
actually go down, which
We've
would
been
be
talking
a
about
recession.
them being scammers
Well,
all
70%
morning.
of our economy is driven by consumer demand, and you're trying to lower demand and slow the economy down. Am I correct?
I guess I just say we're slowing down growth.
Right.
If
That's what the economy is. The
Growth,
growth.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. There's another way. The two aren't exclusive. You alluded to that. You can also lower demand, but you can increase supply. Can you not?
Yes.
And that would solve inflation.
Yes, it would.
Now, Congress's job is not to deal with demand per se. A lot of the bills we pass impact demand, but that's the Fed's job.
Right.
Okay? Now, I'm not going to ask you to comment on any specific bill, but tell me the things that Congress could do right now while you're lowering demand, not you literally, the Federal Reserve, what we can do right now to increase supply.
I think the things you can do are important over the medium and longer term, but probably not so much in the short term. But it's things that like investing in people so that they can remain in the labor market longer, things like that, and infrastructure, things that will increase the productive capacity.
Well,
of
how
the
about
economy.
in the long run, as Keynes said, we're all dead. I'm interested right now in the short run. What about if we reduce the regulatory burden, let's say on refineries, wouldn't that incent refineries to start refining more and help on the supply side?
I would say anything that could increase capacity on that front could have.
Yeah, but would that help? I'm not trying to get you to endorse legislation. Look, Mr. Chairman, we got a hell of a mess here. Okay, inflation is hitting my people so hard they're coughing up bones. I don't care what the inflation is in other parts of the country.
Ooh, yeah, this
world.
guy's
I'm sorry
mean,
they're
guys.
having inflation in other parts of the world.
He's
but
like, I don't
them
care.
in misery doesn't make my people feel better. They're still miserable. Inflation is hitting people so hard they're coughing up bones. It's the highest in 40 years. Our national debt is greater than our national output. Crime's up. The border's open. Respect for institutions is way down, and 70% of the American people think we're headed in the wrong direction.
And Tesla's still
And we
running
got a hell of
green
a
over there,
mess.
guys.
And right now, you're the most powerful man in the United States, maybe in the world. We've got to get I mean, President Biden, I don't blame him. I understand politics. He keeps saying, well,
I like how this guy said Powell's probably the most
401k
influential or
is
powerful
crashed,
man
and
on the
gas has
world
gone
or
from
in the
$2 to
country.
$5 a
I agree
gallon
with
because
that.
the
I think in the
economy's so
U.S.,
good.
people
And the
regard
American
him
people
right
know
now
that's
as
not
probably
true.
the most powerful man in the country.
Now, other than
I know that sounds
relieving
weird, guys, but I mean,
regulatory
just
burden,
imagine it. I mean, he probably is.
well, let me put it in the form of a question.
At least as far as the economy right
What
now.
if the United States Congress said, look, we've got a budget. We're going to freeze spending. We're going to stop injecting more money into the economy. We're going to freeze spending until Powell can get control on the demand side. Would that help?
I don't think it's going to get through 740, George. At least not right now.
You know, I feel like
We'll have to see.
giving you advice on what to do when
I'm asking
we're not
for it.
getting
I welcome it.
we're not getting our own job done. I feel like maybe a better thing to do would be for us to get our house in order and do the job you've assigned us.
Well, let me put it another way. Let's suppose, forget about Congress. Let's suppose that every governor in every state and every legislature in every state got together tomorrow and said, I know it's not likely to happen, and said, we are going to freeze our budgets. We're not going to spend a penny more than's already budgeted. Would that help?
Would it help?
Sir?
Would it help with?
Would it help reduce inflation?
It would depend on it might, but I mean it would take. Again,
this guy saying the governor should get together and
policy.
Well, I'm
freeze
just
their
being careful, but
spending.
Mr. Chairman, the United States Congress, in addition to its regular budget, has spent $7 trillion. I'm not saying all of it was unnecessary. On top of that, the Fed's increased its balance sheet from $1.5 trillion to $9 trillion. $9 trillion. I know you're cutting it back, but we've injected all of this money into the economy, and then people go, well, we have inflation. Duh. Give me some help here. Tell me what we can do.
I'm really focused on what we can do, which is shrink our balance sheet and raise interest rates and get supply and demand back into alignment and get inflation back down to 2%.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Tester from Montana is recognized for 5 minutes.
I want to thank Chair and Ranking Member. I want to thank
you
for being here, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I've just got to say one thing about Senator Kennedy. I think freezing spending is probably a really good idea, except we just had a flood that cost $1 billion worth of damage in southern Montana. $1 billion worth of projected. We freeze spending, that infrastructure never gets rebuilt. So I hear what you're saying. And in some aspects, I agree, but it's a lot easier to talk about than it is to do. And I think that's the challenge that the chairman of the Fed has, is that he really needs to focus on what he needs to do. And if it was a simple solution, we'd already had it done. I'm concerned about rural America and the impact inflation's having on rural America. And I know that you have seen it. You've seen it transpire
Powell too,
over the last several years, particularly as this country's come out of this
pandemic.
pandemic.
He's pretty good.
And I know we've had a conversation that it's
George says he's out of Tesla here. Got out around 7:35, 7:34, I guess. Pretty good, George. Pretty good.
Senator Kennedy's right. You are probably one of the
pretty good trade overall up to 740. I mean, sounds like a pretty good trade.
To be able to deal with some of this stuff. But from a rural perspective, is the Fed doing anything in particular that I could take back to my constituents and say, this is what the Fed's doing to help rein in inflation in rural areas?
Probably going to call it here in a couple minutes, guys.
Well, so we are, of course, well aware. As you know, we have 4 or 5 Reserve Bank presidents who have very large agricultural economies within their districts, and we are
going to call it here within
excellent reports from them about
2 to
what's
3
going
minutes,
on.
maybe, guys. Hopefully, we have a pretty good stream tomorrow. But hey, good trade, George. Glad to see you have a good trade with that. I know Powell's been pretty interesting this morning. Pretty interesting to watch his testimony today. He's going to have another testimony tomorrow. We can go ahead and watch some of that one. It'll be a little bit later in the stream, but yeah, Mike Chang says Kennedy is rude, but he's not wrong. We are hurting here. Yeah, I know, Mike. That's the thing.
We're not at that.
And whenever whenever some of these people that are hurting, whenever they hear Powell speak and they hear him say things that he says, a lot of these guys get pretty upset. You know, they're thinking like,
I know
well, hey, you know, he needs to do more than just raise rates or something. Like those don't even affect me. You know, like a lot of these people who are, you know, getting affected by inflation the most right now, they're not even really in the stock market much, most of them, or they don't have a lot of savings, you know, and stuff like that. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in the back of your mind, that, you know, that's definitely hurting a lot of people. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining up today. Keisha says, okay, thanks, Tom. I love today's stream. Thumbs up, guys. Mike says, this was great, Tom. Thanks again. Have a great day. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, too. Bring in those profits. And, you know, of course, we'll always be in the Discord today. So if you ever want to talk stocks or anything like that, just hop into the Discord. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys later.
But only to 1.6%. So, and we thought that was the right thing to do. I'm happy to discuss why. But really, the point is that our policy rate is still at a relatively low level, and in principle,